First of all, I would like to thank all the directors from the Bank of Canada who were able to come and listen to my presentation. Your time is precious. After all, you have an economy to save. This is possibly one of the most challenging environments in most of our working lives. In this 10 to 12 minute presentation, I will highlight some of our challenges and some recommendations that we might be able to use to combat these challenges. But firstly, if we are who we are by standing on the shoulders of giants, it is worthwhile to reflect on our past. Our institution, the Bank of Canada, is no stranger to trying to fix our nation's economic challenges. Many people don't realize that from the very beginning, the Bank of Canada was placed in hot water. Perhaps quoting Vladimir Lenin in this circle is the definition of irony, but one of his best quotes is, "There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen." Our institution was founded in 1935. Back then, we were tasked with solving one of the biggest economic crises in modern history, the Great Depression. Here, we, along with the rest of the developed world, learned two key lessons. Number one, central banks must respond to financial crises that threaten the macroeconomy. Number two, price stability should be the paramount objective for monetary policy. Of course, as we all know in this meeting, we are currently facing a new historical challenge. Of course, we are tasked to solve this. So, what are the current economic challenges that we are facing? First, we are facing the highest inflation level since the 1980s. This is largely due to a massive disruption to our global supply chains. But in part, central banks were so worried, and rightfully so, about deflation that not just us, but throughout the world, central banks may have provided too much economic stimulus. After all, we have never seen anything like COVID-19 in a modern economy. But another major problem that we have to address, central banks losing public trust. We, the Bank of Canada, are no exception to this. And why is this a problem? This is a quote directly from the Senior Director of Communications at the Bank of Canada, Annie Portelance. Trust makes it possible for the public's inflation expectations to closely align with the inflation objective of the central bank. So in order to tackle the inflation crisis, we must also tackle the trust crisis. We need to launch an internal and external communication campaign to solve this trust issue. To make our communication campaign smart, that is, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, our internal and external communications plan should serve to increase the public's trust in the Bank of Canada from 46% to at least 60% by mid-2023. But how do we achieve our 60% trust rate by mid-2023? Before focusing on our external communication strategy, I would argue that we should focus on the internal one first. This is a time where we at the Bank of Canada and our society at large will be demanding more from our staff members than before. We need to make sure our team is up for the challenge. Our team must stay motivated, and we have to prevent our team from getting emotionally exhausted. Prolonged demotivation and emotional exhaustion can lead to a greater turnover, and this is a time when we, Canadians, need these talented people. So, while our overall objective should be to build and maintain the public's trust, our organizational objective should be to motivate our team and ensure they have strong mental health. Our employees must embrace our key messages. They have to believe in our mission, and they have to understand and feel that we, the management, and the rest of the people at the Bank of Canada are here to support them. But how do we implement these organizational objectives? We need to reach all our employees, but we have about 27,000 staff members, or more precisely, according to Statista, 26,920 as of October 31st, 2021. These staff work in varying departments, not to mention our governor, senior deputy governor, 12 independent directors, and other committee members. Fortunately, we have an internal communication department to help us reach our employees. Their job is to assist the bank in achieving its communication objectives, and they keep employees informed about the bank's role and objectives. So, I propose two solutions. First, we need to constantly remind our employees how important their mission is. They're battling inflation. They're helping to revive the Canadian economy. I propose that we use our internal digital news network. Here, we can post short videos with our primary goal of motivating our employees. Second, we need to prevent our employees from feeling isolated and burnt out. And we have to remember our remote workers as well. Managers need to check in on our employees more than before. This is very important as some employees may be finding the current work environment very challenging. First, they are tasked with solving the highest inflation in 40 years caused by a pandemic. This is something that central banks haven't dealt with before. And second, they are working in an environment where less than half of Canadians trust the central bank. This can be stressful. If managers are able to, they should have face-to-face check-in meetings. For remote workers, video meetings. To measure the effectiveness of our internal communications campaign, we should survey our employees before our campaign. We should check in on their motivation level, how isolated they're feeling, and how burnt out they're feeling. Then we should continue to check in with a survey every 3 months to see if we're making any progress with our internal communications campaign. Having a strong, motivated team will only help us with our external communication campaign. While our main goal is to win the public's trust, I will highlight Annie Portelance again because her research paper from the summer of 2021 contains many interesting insights. She writes that the Bank of Canada's communication objectives should be the following. The Bank of Canada should support the anchoring of inflation expectations. They should reinforce the credibility of policy with markets and other economic players. They should build the public's awareness and understanding of a central bank's work. And finally, they should help establish trust in the institution. Ultimately, I think these recommendations are mostly interconnected and are built on trust. For example, in order for us to be able to anchor the public's inflation expectations, we need to win their trust first. As we are aware in this circle, the public's expectations of inflation influences inflation itself. As the European Central Bank also notes in their October 2021 report, people who have more knowledge in economics, or people who have more understanding of the central bank's work, are much more likely to trust the central bank. Therefore, our primary communication objective should be to build trust, as it is the foundation of all the other objectives. So our external communication campaign strategy should primarily target non-experts. This is because non-experts are the least likely to trust the central banks. This was concluded by various central banks, such as the European Central Bank and also the Bank of Canada. Just to be clear, non-experts in this context means people who have little knowledge in economics. Non-experts still can be experts in other fields, such as biology. Much like in our internal communication campaign, I think it would be best for us to make short videos. This would be the best format to break down complex topics such as macroeconomics into more understandable formats that non-experts can understand. While people will remember 20% of what they hear and 30% of what they see, they will recall 70% of what they both hear and see. I think it is worthwhile to highlight a YouTube channel that managed to break down complex subjects into a format where even children enjoy watching their videos. Kurz gesagt, their channel made various engaging videos on many different topics. They cover science and even politics. And since 2013, the channel amassed 2 billion views. I recommend that the Bank of Canada also makes short, engaging, animated videos that we can release through our various channels. To win the public's trust, our external communication campaign should focus on 3 key messages. Number 1, the public needs to understand what the Bank of Canada does. It is a public institution that works to keep inflation in check. Number 2, the public needs to understand that the Bank of Canada has had successful histories fighting inflation. Number 3, the public needs to believe that the Bank of Canada is implementing strong, effective policies to control inflation. We currently have 4 main channels: Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and our Bank of Canada website. We could post our animated videos on these channels, but I would especially recommend Twitter and YouTube. We have the most followers on Twitter. We have over 210,000 followers on our Anglophonic channel. However, our engagement level is rather low. I recommend that we could promote these videos for greater reach. I also recommend YouTube. Even though it is currently our least popular channel, we have about 10,000 subscribers here and we're only averaging 3,000 to 5,000 views per video, but YouTube is a great place to store videos, and we could share the videos from this platform onto other platforms. And I also recommend that we should promote our videos here too. Another tactic we could implement on Twitter is to engage with our Twitter followers, or the ones who are tagging us. Twitter is the best channel for reaching non-experts. Central banks have so far shied away from engaging with Twitter users who are tagging them, but if we were to try this, it could make us seem more approachable and we could reach out to influencers directly. As mentioned, we can build public trust through directly engaging with Twitter users and publishing a series of high-quality educational animation videos. One last thing that could be useful, where the blue arrow is pointing on the table below, is to have a public spokesperson that routinely appears on media channels to update the public on the current inflation situation and what the Bank of Canada is doing to fix it. This is similar to what Anthony Fauci was doing in America to keep the public updated during the COVID pandemic. Depending on the resources we have, it could take us 3 months to launch this campaign. During the beginning, we should assemble a social media communications team that will engage with the public, find a potential public speaker, preferably internally sourced, find a team to assemble a series of high-quality animation videos as well, and the next month should consist of training our team, booking interview dates with media channels, and our animations should be in development. Month 3 could be our launch date. Our social media team could begin engaging with the public, our public speaker could attend different media events, and we could start releasing our animation videos once per week. Finally, we should evaluate our results the following month and make any necessary changes. Just like for our internal communication campaign, we can launch a post-campaign survey and intermittent surveys to see if trust level is increasing. We could use Angus Reid to survey to see if you're reaching the 60% plus trust level. But we can also try newly developed AI tools such as brand mentions, which can measure public sentiment like on Twitter. In conclusion, trust is very important. Quoting the YouTube channel Economics Explained, the most valuable asset a bank has on its books is trust. The Bank of Canada must also continue to adapt. We are living in a very different environment than we did in 1935. Studies such as the Edelman Trust Canada 2022 show that trust level in institutions is at an all-time low. We at the Bank of Canada must also evolve to address these challenges. After all, trust is a key ingredient if not a main ingredient, in a healthy economy. With that, thank you for listening, and I hope I have provided you with some value with my research.